I am joining you today, my fellow booknickers, to show you the thrifted and one new book haul that I have managed to get this month, and I will reveal as we go through. But this is pretty much all thrifted books except for one, and I will hopefully put these down without dropping them, but we will be going through these, so I'm excited. Okay, maybe not. All right, let's try this again. So I do have them in a little bit of an order, so I gotta make sure that they're still in order now that I've dropped them. But these are books that I have either seen on YouTube or have been recommended by some of the booktubers that I follow, and they've just really, I guess, influenced my interest in kind of just checking these authors and these books out. They're fun, some of them, I guess, but some of them are also very serious reads, and I'm really excited about that because I tend to gravitate towards fantasy and escape and just kind of the love stories and things like that. So I really am excited to take on some of these books. And actually I did pick up one and I started reading it. I actually let my husband choose my book, sort of. He did like a little twirl and just poked. So I did start reading that one, and I am probably gonna DNF it. I'm not 100% certain. I'm a bit of the way in, and we'll go into that, but we'll get started. So the first book, of course, has been all over YouTube. It has been I've gravitated towards this book. I really want to get the UK version. I love this cover, but the UK cover is just absolutely gorgeous. This is the only book I bought new, and that's because I couldn't wait to get it off of like Pengo Books or anything like that. I had to have this. I wanted to get it read. So this book, objectively, would be a 4.5-star read for me. I feel like this had great character development. There was a lot of intrigue. There was a lot of plot to this book. The complexities of the relationships was really interesting. I really enjoyed the kind of love triangle that was in it. Sorry, my dog is wanting to come and say hello. Come on. This is my baby boy. He may stick around for a minute. So I apologize. So this book ended up being one of my favorite reads of the year so far. It is absolutely phenomenal. I'm bummed that I finished it before the other book came out. I have pre-ordered the other book on audio, and I'm very excited to get started with that. I really want to finish this story. The ending of this really got me in the heart a little bit. I can't wait to see what happens with this duology. Excuse me, I have to reference my list. The next book that I've already read this month is The Hive, and I'll put a little graphic up here because this actually I read in ebook through Libby, and it was my lottery winner for February. I finished it in like 3 days. It was a young adult thriller, and I had excuse me, I had certain guidelines that I had to make because of my lottery process. So I take 3 to 4 specific categories. I do a lottery of those categories, and then I lottery what's part of those categories. So I have genre, subgenre, color of the cover, first name of the author, last name of the author starts with whatever letter, and things of that nature. So for this one, it was a young adult book. It had to be a thriller. The cover had to be orange. No. Yes, orange. Had to primarily be orange. And I think that was all my categories for this one. The Hive, though, was... I went in skeptical first probably 3 or 4 chapters, I was kind of struggling with the character, the FMC. She was a bit immature. She's 17. She's recently lost her father. She's very angry at the world. She's cut herself off. She feels like, what's the point of having relationships if you just lose people? So it builds into this world. It's a, I guess, near future timeline where social media has become such a problem that the government has implemented a system to track people's posting and the government has implemented a system that tracks how people post and what they say, and they can get essentially likes and dislikes, but they also can get condemned. And if you get condemned to a certain point, you actually get punished by people who participate in the Hive. So it's literally civilians deciding your punishment. It's not like a judge and jury type of thing. So it starts off a man who has complained about his situation with his wife, and he's getting shamed in public. He's made to walk around naked for the whole day while people throw food and whatnot at him. It's very kind of medieval in that sense, the way that they treated the public humiliation or the public punishments. It's very barbaric. So you go in, and her mother has had to sell their house due to their father's passing and leaving them in financial hardship. And they've moved into a much smaller home. They're in a new area. So she's starting a new school, and her mother is starting a new job at a local college. And one of the primary things in this book is the level of technology that is present in the storyline. The young lady, her father was a white hat hacker, and she had learned code from him. He was very infamous within the hacking community. When she was growing up, she learned from him quite a bit. And she's very knowledgeable. She can break into her phone. If her mom decides she wants to take something away, she can take it, she can code it and get around any kind of blocks that her mom puts in. Her mom's very not tech savvy. She's not a fan of the Hive. She doesn't like the idea of her daughter participating in any of these Hive rallies. And she ends up, I wouldn't say befriending, she kind of joins into this group of girls who are the popular girls. Like, I would almost compare them to like the Heathers or Mean Girls in that sense, where she gets accepted even though she doesn't feel like she's really part of it. And they have what they call this study system, and each person in the group is good in certain subjects in school. And they didn't have a coder, so they're like, hey, join our group. And it's not because they like her, it's not because that, you know, they have any kind of special connection. It's because they can use her to get good grades. They're all in their senior years or junior years. I can't remember exactly. And all they care about is Hive justice and being popular and doing well in school. And they really consider high school kind of like a blip on the map. They figure anything they say is going to get buried in a day under some other controversy. They're really kind of vapid in that sense. And so they end up, one day, a picture of the president's grandson comes out, and they are all like, we need to post on this. We need to post on this. And so they're throwing around ideas of what to say about this child, because as far as everybody else is concerned, the child's ugly. Like they're just awful about it. That it's so mean. And it's definitely, it takes into account the concept of cyberbullying that we have dealt with in the last, 15, 20 years, that has, between, you go from cyberbullying to cancel culture, and you have all of these kind of tie-ins to things that are very relevant in the last, decade or two. And so she ends up making a comment to the effect of, it's too bad the abortion didn't take. And it's an awful thing to say. It's an awful thing to think. And the girls are like, oh my gosh, that's such a great one. So she posts under her own Hive tag this comment, and it goes viral. And in this, you have these, likes, dislikes, and then the condemns. And she starts getting condemns very quickly. And before she even leaves school that day, she's already at a level 2. And there's 5 levels. So the first level is like people have a day to do whatever it is they're going to do as far as your punishment, and the punishments get worse as you go up. So it's, like public humiliation, and it kind of sticks with those, but the people have longer to inflict this punishment. So it's like a day, a week, a month, a year, and then number 5 is like however long it takes. But she goes home. She wants to just kind of get away from it all because she's like, okay, I'm going to end up getting embarrassed or getting punished in public. I shouldn't have made the comment, but I can't take it back now. And before she even wakes up the next morning, her mother wakes her up at like 3 or 4 in the morning. And she's like, we need to go. We need to hide. And so within hours, she had reached level 5. And the story takes on this almost Purge kind of feeling where people just go crazy. They want this girl, they want to make an example out of her. And the people are like vicious. The comments, everything else that they start putting in there. And her tags that start popping up, they're kill on sight. So she is literally running for her life for the last like 2/3 of this book. And it pulls in, secret groups that are hackers. It pulls in friends that she would never expect, enemies that she didn't see coming. It's a very good book. It's an extremely good book. I felt like this book really put out there some of the things that center around social media that we really don't talk about. I've kind of had this feeling over the years that social media has really kind of put in this, kind of grown the apathy of society. People are so disconnected that they are not considering how their comments and their words and their ability to just put whatever out there and how it affects the people that they're talking to. Cyberbully, which is a movie that was made years ago, it addresses this, and it is such a hard-hitting movie. If you've never watched it, I think it's on Netflix. I'll post a kind of like a picture of the movie poster up here. But Cyberbully is such a great story. It's so sad, but it really brings to light the things that we don't think about when it comes to social media, and how the things that people say really can devastate someone. And this book really does kind of put those two things on their heads. It really takes that cyberbully thing. I mean, our FMC, she is kind of in that category. She is presented as a cyberbully with this comment, and then the people just go crazy. And the government gets involved. It's, of course, the Hive is run by the government. And she finds allies in some of the strangest people. And when you start the story, her and her mother have a very distant and kind of conflicted relationship. She doesn't think her mother understands. She doesn't think her mother is... She has this blinder on to who her mother is. And with this story, in the beginning, she's just kind of not very well developed as far as the character goes, but she grows throughout this story, and you see her come to an understanding that the world is much bigger, and who she is in the world can be much bigger than anybody really thinks about. Because one thing can turn your life upside down. And she learns that very quickly in this story, and she goes through a lot of heartbreak and a lot of fear and a lot of terror in this book. And it shows a really thoughtful and thought out story of someone who comes to the realization that the things we do matter, and that the intention of our words can really affect far more people than we really anticipate. It's a very good book. Again, here's a quick picture of the cover. It's a dual author story written by, I think, a husband and wife. So if you get a chance, check it out. If you like sci-fi tech oriented stories, it's a really good read. I apologize if I start looking down. I am referencing my list because I don't want to get too far off track. The other book that I started this month, and I'm not 100% certain if I'm going to DNF it. This was a 100% cover buy. I absolutely loved this cover. Read the back. It sounded very intriguing, a little bit like My Sister's Keeper. It's supposed to be like a medical YA drama. So this one is The Probability of Miracles. It is by Wendy Wunder, not W-O, but W-U-N-D-R. And it had a lot of really good like comments and stuff like that on the book cover and within it that were like recommendations. Like it, you know, people who had commented on how heartfelt and everything else it was, and that it was, you know, it had a lot of humor. And I enjoy humor mixed with the drama because it lightens the story in a way. And so I had really high hopes for this book. I am on page 110, which, I mean, if you look at it, I'm about a third of the way through the book. And that's where Hive really picked up. So I'm gonna give this a little bit longer before I decide to DNF it, and I may come back and end up loving it. So, but this book I picked up at a thrift store. I think I paid like $1 for it or 75 cents. And so, you know, this was, like I said, purely a cover buy. I absolutely love this cover. I think it's so cute. Another book that I picked up this month was The Midnight Library. I actually bought this from my library. It was only $2, so, and it's in really good condition. I'm excited to read this. It has been talked about a lot on BookTube, so I'm excited. A lot of people, whether it was the book itself or Matt Haig as an author, they love him or the book. So I definitely have this on my TBR. I don't know if I'll get to it this month, but I am excited to read this one. The next book that I have that I picked up is The Water is Wide by Pat Conroy. This book I picked up specifically for the author. I kind of went on a binge for Ian Gubeli's page. So if you don't know who Ian Gubeli is, he's a great booktuber. He reads all kinds of genres. Surprisingly, like you anticipate people who kind of stick to one genre, whether it's horror and fantasy or thriller, and he has a very diverse selection of books that he's read from, and he highly recommends Pat Conroy. I picked this up purely because of watching his channel. So, all right, Ian, I'll let you know whether or not I love this book. My daughter gave it high marks. She has read it, and she said it's a very good book. So I'm looking forward to this one. I am hoping to get to this one this month. Another book that I picked up this month was The Lost Apothecary. This book I've seen on a lot of BookTubers channels. I've seen it in the special edition version. I've heard a lot of highs and lows about it, so I kind of going in with no expectations. But this is one that I picked up at another, again, thrift store. I think I paid $1.50. No, I paid $2 for this one because it's a newer book. But I am excited to get to this one. I like the time element in this one, I think. I'm very curious to see how she writes it. And I really, really like things that are set in like Victorian London, and I'm a huge steampunk girl, so I know that's not what this is, but I do love the Victorian era, the way that it can be written. The next book that I got is an author rec. So I picked this up. It is The Only One Left by Rylee Sager. She has been all over. I've seen a lot of people talking about her. This book, I mean, the cover, the brightness of this against the dark and the blue, this really caught my eye. And it was the only Rylee Sager I saw while I was out thrifting. I ended up I got this one from Goodwill, and this one was only $3. So for a hardcover from an author that is considered, you know, a great author, a New York Times bestseller, I'm excited to check this one out and just kind of give my thoughts. It's definitely on my TBR. I just don't know if it'll go on this month because I do have quite a few books that I'm already reading. I do have an Emily Henry book, The People We Meet on Vacation. I've heard really good things about this book. I've had a couple of booktubers that I've watched have it on their best books of 2024. So this one is one that I'm kind of really excited about. I like, you know, contemporary romance. So, and with it being just a individual read, it is long. It's let's see. So, but it is 364 pages, which I can breeze through a book pretty quickly when I'm reading, especially if I'm really, you know, dialed in. So this may be one I try to take on this month, just because I think it kind of has that meet cute element to it, and that'd be fun for February. I have another book that is author and title recommended all over BookTube, and that is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Now, Taylor Jenkins Reid is all over BookTube. Daisy Jones and the Six. I think the new book she has coming out is called Atmosphere. And this book made it to a lot of people's best of 2024. I've seen it on a couple of people's lists. They're number one. This is not the top of my list, but it is one I would like to get to this year. So I will probably throw this into like a TBR jar for, you know, my monthly reads, books that I am very interested in, but not necessarily want to put at the top of my list. Another book that I picked up is The Brutal Prince, excuse me, by Sophie Lark. This is supposed to be a bit of a mafia romance, and it is part of a series, so we'll see how I feel about this one. It is a nice short story. It's less than 300 pages, and I got this one fairly inexpensive. I think I paid $2 for it. It is the Target special edition, I think. And it's part of the Brutal Birthright series. So this book, it's very soft, like soft touch. I like it. I may put this one on my list for this month because it is kind of centered around romance. I apologize. The pollen around here is just intense the last few weeks. So this book I'm very excited about. I want to get into it. I like books where it's kind of, I want to say, an enemy to lovers. I think that's what this is. Yeah, so the rivalry has always been flammable, but it reignites with fury when Ada, the youngest and wildest Gallows sibling, crashes a party at the Griffin Mansion and accidentally sets fire to the library. So, wow. So I am excited about this. I think this will definitely kind of jump to maybe my next read. I am in the middle of one of my favorite Kindle authors, and she's very exclusively on Amazon. And I know there's a lot of people who don't love Amazon, but I've been a Kindle Unlimited subscriber since it started. And I have certain authors that I just, when they have new books that have come out, I have to read them. So I am in the middle of one of those. I have these books because I feel like they're books that I need to read at some point. These are books that I thrifted this month. One of them is a book that I have read, and it is not on my TBR, but it is a book series that I really want to have so I can pick it up and read anytime. So I picked up Catching Fire. I am still looking for Mockingjay and Hunger Games. I really want to read them again. I haven't read them in a long time, but they are some of my favorite. Yeah, so I picked this one up, and I'm going to be on the hunt for the other editions that are in this style. The next book I have is Intimidating, and it's because I know that this book is very detailed. So I know I'm going to need to be able to really focus in on it. I'm going to need to like tackle it over a weekend where I don't have anything else going on, but it is the Da Vinci Code. I have heard great things about this book. I have seen the movie, of course. I think maybe everybody has seen the movie or at least heard of it. Anyway, I really want to read this book. I think it's going to be a very good book, and I will hopefully be able to decide whether or not I want to continue reading the rest of the books, because I know it is part of a, I don't know if it's a duology or a series. Why is it upside down? Oh, it's upside down. So that sorry for that. So, but it's not super small text, so I think that it will go fairly quickly. It's got fairly large margins. This is one I anticipate annotating very, very deeply and really just kind of getting into and enjoying. The last book that I have is one that I've never read. I know it's on I know it's on a lot of school reads, especially for middle schoolers, I believe. I know my daughter's read it. I know my son has read it. They each have their own opinions. My daughter actually, she liked it, but she wasn't one of those people who would pick it up and read it again. And that is The Book Thief. This book is by Markus Zusak, and it is a World War II historical fiction. So I really am looking forward to this. I did just recently finish a World War II historical fiction. I did just finish a World War II historical fiction from Georgia Hunter called We Were the Lucky Ones, which was an amazing read. So I do want to read this. I don't want to read this just yet. I think I want to wait a little while because, like I said, I did just read another World War II historical fiction. So I am excited about this. I know it has been adapted into a movie, and maybe that'll be one that I highlight for a movie adaptation, because I do have movie adaptations in my lottery. So I'm hoping that maybe I'll get that for this. Last but not least, I do want to highlight the book that I am reading because I absolutely love this author. I feel like she doesn't get enough attention. She is one of my favorites. She writes in a way that is just very engaging. Most of her books are urban fantasy or paranormal fantasy in a sense. I fell in love with her years and years ago when I read her Rylee Adamson series, and her worlds that she builds and that she constructs are just so fun. She has such a comical and engaging way of writing that every time a book comes out from her, I am very interested in reading. Her books are not super spicy, but they do have a level of romance that is in there. She does give warnings in some of her books so that people can actually skip ahead to not have to read the details. So she is absolutely lovely. I love her books. She's a Canadian writer. Her name is Shannon Mayer. And the book that I'm currently reading from her is called Gossamer. It is the final book in her Golden Wolf series. And this is the cover. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love her covers. She's redesigned several of them. This one is so stunning. And she has a couple of books that are available on Pango Books right now that are special editions that I'm really, really wanting to get my hands on. And they are the first 2 books of this series. I think I have 4 of her books in actual physical copies. They're paperbacks. I did get one through a mystery box that she sent out. I think it was during the pandemic. And I have 2. I have 2 because I got 2 of her mystery boxes. And she signed them. I have little like trinkets that are from her that came in those boxes. I absolutely love her. She does a lot of Facebook Lives with her readers. She's very engaging with them. She's done a couple of Kickstarters for a couple of her series that are just, I love them. She has a series called the 40 Proof series, which is about a recently divorced 41 or 2-year-old who moves back to her hometown and realizes that she has a tie to the fae and magical world. She pulls in all kinds of elements of fantasy that just, her worlds are really fun to engage with. I really love her stories. So if you ever have a chance to pick up one of her books, I highly recommend her. I think they're extremely entertaining. They're not going to be books that are like John Gwynne or, you know, it's not going to be like reading A Song of Ice and Fire or Sarah J. Maas or anything like that. Her books are not to that epic fantasy level. Her books are much more grounded and set in the real world and deal with things that, you know, I mean, you can really kind of connect with. I love her books. I will link her in the description below. And if you're interested, check her out. She's just a great reader, or a great writer, excuse me. But thank you for joining me today. I hope you guys join me again. So everyone have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me in my nook. Bye.